Hey everyone, welcome to our latest CS Mastermind. I'm here with Jason Connor. Jason, how you doing?
Doing amazing. Thank you for asking. How about yourself?
Doing well. Always happy to host one of these with you. So today we're going to talk about how to book more discovery calls, along with some content and strategy hacks along the way. The reason we wanted to do this, we're really big on going into 2024 of helping you and your teams set up discovery calls as the number one KPI that you're tracking. The idea of text marketing is really to activate conversations with homeowners and to get you that one-on-one interaction that allows you to have that conversation with the homeowner, to present solutions, to present alternatives, and to, of course, ultimately stack up your deals month over month and throughout the year. So it's easy math from discovery call. You know, however many of those you got booked for the month, you know exactly how many your team's going to convert and exactly what that's going to equal in terms of profitability for your company. So we're going to show you how to optimize launch to push towards that goal of tracking discovery calls and the profitability that comes from them. All right, Jason, you ready to kick this thing off?
As they say, I was born ready.
All right, love it. All right, so you guys, if you've been working with our CS team, you know this well, but it's really been something that has been ramping up a lot in terms of our conversations with the carriers and just their conversations with anybody using text marketing across any industry, which is to really start enabling more of a recipient first framework. It's really important for us to consider that, every time that we reach out to a lead for the carriers is a customer, right? So they need to protect their customers and the experience of their customers because those customers have contracts with them. And if those customers are not happy, they lose contracts. So it's a pretty simple business equation here of why we want to create a really recipient focused approach to how we do this. And so what we've done is reset our REI strategies for you guys to give you complete engagement packages that are based on proven strategies from investors in the field. So we've talked to coaches, we've talked to the top investors on the platform and across the country, and we've come up with basically a five-step plan for helping you to activate discovery calls in a recipient-focused framework. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning, as we go through these five engagement steps or five conversion steps, I'll pause after each section. During each section, please fill in any questions you have. Well, anything that's really hyper focused on that section, we'll try to answer right away before we move on to the next. And anything that's still hanging, we'll make sure that we get to that in the QA session at the end. Okay, so be active in the chat, drop a bunch of questions, and we'll get to everything that we can. Okay. All right, so we want to, as mentioned, we want to implement engagement systems. This is not so much a have to thing, right? So I want to get everybody out of the mentality of carrier CTIA compliance and really just starting to think about this in terms of ROI. How much does this equal for your business in terms of profitability, and how much can that make a difference month to month, year to year? Not just ROI for launch, but ROI for all of your marketing efforts, ROI for your business, really, year over year as you scale up. Okay, so for section one here, we're going to focus on our deal conversion systems. Now, what we've set up is a series of engagement angles that are based, again, off of investor strategy, coaching strategy, that from people that we're working with that are well known, very successful in the industry. And we put that into a AI prompt structure within the app that's going to be able to auto generate these approaches for you. Now, what we have on the screen here is the purpose of the approaches, and I'll get into this in the next slide. But what's really important for everybody to understand is that this is a complete content package, right? So for each one of these approaches, which I'll highlight in a second, we're talking about a series of activation messages to get them into your inbox. We have a set of quick replies that are meant to activate a discovery call in real time, and a set of quick replies that are meant to nurture, get them onto a drip, and then back to a discovery call when that lead is warmed up and ready. And as part of that, drip automations that are pre-included in each one of these packages. So we're not just talking about initial messages, we're talking about entire systems that drive discovery calls. Okay, so the first on the list here is trusted advisor. One of the challenges that we wanted to help people overcome was how to widen the circle of prospective leads. You guys know this in REI. When someone is in that consideration phase, they generally don't think that they're ready to go off market. They're still considering their solutions as MLS or looking at ways to improve the value of their home in order to prep for that. And they need someone to guide them through what it's really going to cost to eliminate some of those alternatives that still feel like viable alternatives. You know that they're not. You know that this person landed on your list because they are a very strong off-market candidate. But if you're able to get to them in an earlier stage of consideration, you can start having conversations with leads that nobody's having because they're not in that 30 to 60-day decision window yet, but they're close. And if you can help them eliminate some of those decisions that they're going to eliminate on their own eventually, you can get to them quicker. All right. So we want to have that. We want to have a direct approach for anybody that we know is very likely to be in a 30 to 60-day decision window, so we can get to them quickly. This is right out of the box. We purchase homes in the area. Would you be interested in discussing solutions? There's no fat on these ones. It's directly to the wholesaling player, directly to the off-market approach that you guys want. Navigating the market takes certain current market considerations into play. The status of interest rates, slower sales cycles in some markets, and using it as a way to just engage in a real estate conversation with people, and then again guide them towards those solutions that are rooted in an off market, rooted in what you do. Okay, so all of that is about activating prospects, right? It's about getting people into the inbox and getting conversations with homeowners so that you can get to the point of discovery call. But that's only a portion of your business, right? You still have a lot of ongoing conversations in your CRM that you need to activate as well. You need to get those pushed to discovery call, and some of those fall quiet, right? And when they do, you're sitting on these really warm, viable leads, people that have raised their hand, had a conversation with you, shown interest in off-market solutions, but not yet made a decision. So we have an opportunity to heat those up via launch and get them back to the place where you can get on a timely discovery call and create those solutions for them or present those solutions for them. And then another underutilized thing that we really want to be able to give people the option to do is to use launch control to curate your buyers list. So, and Jason and his team will walk you through how to do this procedurally, but the whole content suite is there for you to be able to create an opted-in list of buyers who are looking to receive a text message anytime you have an available property that fits what they're looking to buy. And then using the drip automations to create a competitive environment between your buyers for any property that you're looking to offload so that you can earn the highest potential amount from that property. So with these 5 approaches, all of which are available if you work with Jason and his team, you can start implementing those as early as next week to not only get prospects to the point of discovery call, but to re-engage from your CRM to discovery call, and then take those properties that you're able to get a hold of and quickly sell them to buyers, again, using launch control. Right. So it'll give you a whole system to run your business. And this is available now. So if you reach out to Jason and his team, they can set you up with that. And then in the coming months, we're going to have this available as an in-app solution. So you'll be able to just print these out as you need them and add volume to accommodate the volume that you're doing through the system. All right. So any questions? I don't see a ton in the chat yet. If you guys have any questions about that, how it works for your business, any specifics about how navigating the market works, how target buyers works, drop your questions in the chat and we can get to those now before we move on to the next section. If not, we'll save that for the Q&A. This system is available to everyone, so just reach out to customer success and they'll get the content put into your system. It is AI generated, so you may have to do a little bit of editing to make it sound like you, but you'll have all of the framework there for each of these processes. Okay, great question. So how does direct approach work? I thought we had to be vague now. So I want everyone to be really, really clear on this. The first stage for carrier CTIA compliance that we need to adjust to is they did a recent sweep for scam markers. So they threw out this big, huge wide net that hit a bunch of industries. And it was anything that seemed to be trolling for personal information. So when we were saying, hey, Jason, you own 57 Green Street, right? They saw that as trolling for confirmation of personal information, the same way as if I had sent a message that said, hey, Jason, you're with Bank of America, right? Last four digits on your account, 4763. To them that it's the same level of suspicion, right? They had to create a huge net that's going to capture any of that confirmation of personal data or confirmation of personal information and wipe that off the board. So what that did was took, what people had been doing for years and being really friendly and saying, hey, Jason, hey, Michael, wanted to inquire about your property at 57 Green Street. And it wiped those off the board because they had those two scam tags in them. So when we went back to the carriers and really presented the REI business and said, look, like this is the use case. This is what happens. These are the conversations that need to happen in order to progress. We got down to the point that the real tripping point were those scam tags. So we removed those, which enables us to go back to more of a direct approach. So many of you, if you're currently active on the system, you know that we've re-enabled previous messaging minus those two elements, right? But moving forward, what we want to do, and I'm going to get into this with the next slide, is the whole conversion system to discovery call. The other place where the system tends to lack a recipient first approach is in the inbox. All right, where somebody comes in looking for solutions and they just get hit with, do you want a cash offer? And it's incongruent with the conversation that they started. That creates a bad user experience. Or someone was put onto a drip automation and they said, look, I'm not interested in selling. I'm not going to be interested. Take me off of your list. And that person keeps getting messaged every few months and they don't have a clear opt-out, then it creates a bad user experience. So they do opt out. They just opt out by going directly to the carriers and saying, I don't want this. And when that happens, and that happens at any certain number, then it endangers the campaign, right? Because each of you has an individual business to business connection with the carriers, and it's campaigns that they get blocked. It's individual campaigns that get blocked, and they do it when things like that happen, when a bad user experience triggers red flags. So we want to be able to enable direct the direct approach, but also enables some of the conversion tactics that we're going to talk about in just a second to create a better overall user experience. Um, and nothing to answer the last question, then we'll move on. We're not going to automatically push this into your account at this point. It's an on-demand kind of thing. So if you go to Jason and his team and ask for it, they can give you that whole suite of content for each one of these approaches. And you can actually go into the app and generate the trusted advisor approach yourself. So if you go into the template builder, you'll be able to do that now. Okay, so let's move on to section 2. Anything that we missed in the questions, we'll answer at the Q&A section at the end. So Jason, Josh, if you can just kind of take note of anything that I didn't get to, and then we'll review that at the end. Okay, so the second step in the deal flow strategy, this is the part that I'm the most excited about, to be honest. You guys, if you use the system, you're familiar with quick replies, right? So if somebody says, "How'd you get my number?" and you have a pre-written answer for that, so that you or anyone running the system for you, your acquisitions person, your VA team, whomever it is, knows that when that reply comes in or that response comes in, the quick reply is engaged, and it moves the conversation one step, right? But there's a really underutilized opportunity to build decision trees using those quick replies so that anybody that shows active interest can be on a quick 1, 2, 3 discovery call path. Or if they're showing some hesitancy and we need to build trust, a 1, 2 drip automation, drip to discovery call path. But we use the quick replies as a plug-and-play system for anybody running this for your team, right? So and this is part of what you're going to get with each one of these packages is a series of, and you'll see them labeled as activate quick reply. And so anybody that shows any kind of positivity, they respond to the call to action, they ask a relevant question about what you do, a relevant question about off-market real estate, and you want to get them onto a discovery call quickly, there's a path of quick replies that your team can plug in and use, and it will lead directly to discovery call. And if the person is, as you can see here on the screen, right, the initial message, if that person responds, oh, sorry about that. If that person responds in a positive way, you'll have a path to take them down. If that person responds in a neutral way, you'll have a path to take them down. So let me get back to that screen. Apologies. There we go. Okay. Now, the one thing that I do want to make clear is that the quick reply flows, the nurture and the activate quick reply flows, both of which lead to discovery call. They are a foundation. We thought through what the common responses are going to be and the steps of conversations. The conversation starts here, it escalates to here, then it's a discovery call. We thought through those steps and provided answers to those so that you can pivot to a call at the right time, so that you can give the person the opportunity to communicate in real time via text or to move to a call or schedule a call. So we gave you those foundational building blocks. But your conversations and your markets are going to be unique. So to really make this robust, to really make this work incredibly well for your teams, what you want to do is anything that is more than a one-time response, you want to save that as either an activate quick reply or a nurture quick reply. Which side of the fence does it fall on? And by doing so, you can swap out VA teams, you can lose an acquisitions person and hire someone new, and you've got the map already laid out. So you don't have to be in the constant process of REI educating in order to feel comfortable enough to walk away and let the pipeline keep itself full while you're out in the field talking to homeowners, making deals, finishing contracts, dealing with your buyers. You can section this thing off so that the only thing that you're really dealing with in launch is the buyer communication, and your team, whomever is on your team, is working the rest of the system. And you can trust in that because you've got decision trees built out through the quick reply system for activate and nurture, and all roads lead to discovery calls, right? So that the only, if you're, as you progress and your business gets bigger and bigger, the only thing that you have to ask, and we'll get to this in a later slide, is how many discovery calls did we book last month? How many deals did we close out of that? Right? That can be the only metric that you really need to track because the system's tight enough that you don't need to daily manage it. That's the goal. Okay, so before we move on from this section, any questions that you want me to address about this slide or Jason to address about this slide, or are we ready to move on to step 3 in the deal flow strategy?
There are pretty good questions, but I think we should leave these for the end.
Okay, as far as the as far as the opt-in goes, we understand that not everyone is going to have opt-in data for all of their contacts, but we have to, as a system, to work in, and the carriers know it too, but there's still a certain amount of steps that are certain check boxes that we just need to follow, right? So we understand that not everything is going to be 100% opt-in, but what we want to do through the activation sequences is get people into the inbox. If they're into the inbox and they're on that activate or nurture path, there's an assumed opt-in, right? They've accepted that conversation. They're conversing about the property. It's not a first message that says, who is this, or leave me alone, or take me off of your list. That's not enough. But if you are actually engaged in a conversation, which we're trying to promote with these different paths of activate and nurture, then you have a very clear, implied opt-in. You can have opt-in according to the carriers as well. Like you can have, which is why I want to really target the CRM retargeting. So you can have opt-in by having a conversation with someone and saying, is it okay if I send you a text message? Right? That is a clear opt-in. Your next text message will probably say something like, picking up our conversation, picking up from our phone conversation, you can reach me here as well. But that is a very allowable way to capture opt-in and continue conversations. So we have this ability to put names into the system and then really kind of generate that true opt-in by generating good recipient-focused engagement. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. All right, so you guys have heard me mention this. It is the topic of today's conversation. But my goal for you guys in 2024 and even now for the rest of December is to make discovery calls booked your number one KPI. I'm going to defer to Jason to work with you guys on this because there's some great little tricks that he has. We're not going to show them right now, but to use the custom tag system and to set up filtering mechanisms within your account to really be able to show, which data sources drove the most discovery calls, which rep working for your company drove the most discovery calls, which content structure drove the most discovery calls, and really be able to, from a high level marketing standpoint, be able to segment your audience and see where the money's actually coming from so that you can pour more of your attention and more of your focus into that area and via that approach. So ultimately, at the end of the year, what you're able to do is to, eliminate data sources that aren't delivering, to cut down drastically on skip tracing costs, and to really hyper focus your business on the combination of data, content, systems, and people that is delivering the most discovery calls and thus the most deals for your organization. Okay, so I would set up not only working with Jason, but I would set this as a sales challenge for your team. right? Like have a board in the office if you've got an office, but really set it up where if you're a solo entrepreneur where you're raising the bar for yourself every month, and if you're running a team where you're challenging your team and you're saying, like if we can get 25 discovery calls in January, we're going to make X amount of profit. Can you get 30 in February? Got 30 in February. We got a new data source coming in. We've got an expanding team. Can we get to 45 in March? If we get to 45 in March, that's going to be our biggest month ever, right? So really set that challenge of not like how many batches did you send or how many data points did you go through, but rather through these activation systems, how many discovery calls did you book and what was the associated value of those discovery calls? How much did you profit as an organization? Okay, before we move on to the next section, any questions in the chat from here? And again, we're going to do a Q&A at the end, so if something pops into your head, we can answer it at that time, no problem. Okay, so let's go back. We're now sorry, I keep jumping around a bit here. All right. So for deal flow strategy number 4, and remember it's only 5, so we're cruising through this. We'll be done in probably about 10-15 minutes here. So the deal flow strategy 5, and I'll cover this a little bit more. We do have data partnerships that you can leverage. The number one data partnership you can leverage right now is Deal Machine. We can get you full access for 30 days. But what I really want to focus on here is the last part of what you see on the screen by setting up an A/B data testing model. This is huge, right? This goes into knowing where the money you spend is actually driving results, right? So this plays directly into what we were just talking about with discovery calls. So if you have, I have Deal Machine listed here on the screen, but you can insert whatever data source you trust, whatever data source that you're using, right? If you're using Investor Machine, fine. If you're using 80/20, fine. If you're using Deal Machine, fine. Like whatever, Audantic, fine. Whatever data source you're using and you trust, or a combination of data sources, you want to put this right into your campaign naming structure, right? Again, Jason and his team can help you set this up. But if you're talking about filtering mechanism, like I used obvious ones here, right? Pre-foreclosure, high equity, but you can drill way, way, way down, right? You can go down like zombie properties in East Phoenix, right? So it can be the smallest little level, or all the way down to a housing community, and you know specifically that you're speaking to people in that housing community. But that first one is your data filter, right? Like who are you? What is your target? What or who is your target? Second is your data source. And this is going to change. You're going to have different data sources. Might be a mixture of Audantic, PropStream, and Deal Machine, or whatever. And then you're going to have your deal conversion packages. And remember that each one of these, direct approach, trusted advisor, navigating the market, all of them are complete sets of content. So activation sequences, activate quick replies, nurture quick replies, and drip campaigns. Okay. So if you're able to take something like pre-foreclosure, they've got 30 to 60 days probably to make a decision, hard ticking clock for the homeowner. Great for you because it means money realized in a short window. So the assumption that everybody makes with these quote unquote hot leads is that you got to take the direct approach, right? You have limited time. You got to get in there as fast as you can and provide solutions, right? But everybody's taking that approach, to be honest, right? Everybody's trying to get in, be as direct as possible, and capitalize on those ticking clock clients, right? Whereas something like Trusted Advisor, where you're breaking through the white noise because you're coming in and you're offering help. And you're saying, look, I know like the market's confusing, your options are confusing. Do you want to sit down and just walk through everything? Want to go through it all, A to Z? Will help, right? And that will help mentality might be the thing that breaks through the white noise. So unless you A/B test, unless you take a list of 1,000 pre-foreclosure leads in your market and you put 500 on direct approach and 500 on trusted advisor, you're not going to know which is going to drive more discovery calls and thus more deals. Because if it turns out that trusted advisor, and this would be my assumption, honestly, is if it turns out that trusted advisor drives a 20% increase in discovery calls booked, there are tens of thousands of dollars associated with that, right? So not A/B testing could very much mean that you're leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table monthly and hundreds of thousands over the course of the year, right? So it's a simple setup to initiate and launch. Jason and his team, again, can walk you through everything from the campaign naming structure to which combinations of content to use in any given situation. And you'll have that system set up so you can go from this A/B test to what we talked about earlier and following those activate and nurture quick replies based on the content system. And again, measuring that discovery calls booked as your primary KPI and knowing exactly where your money is coming from. Okay, any questions about that before we move to the fifth and final section of the deal flow strategy? Okay, let's do it. All right. So for the final section of deal flow strategy, this might seem very obvious, but it is an underutilized tool that we have, right? Work with our customer success team on a monthly basis. Jason and his team are not here just to help people get onboarded and then walk away. That's never been our philosophy. Our philosophy has always been to help people optimize their real estate investment organizations, right? And doing so gets into things like what we just talked about today, a 5-step process for lead optimization and discovery call optimization within your system, right? And a 5-step process that is plug and play for whomever is going to be running the system for you, which again frees up time for you to focus on those profit-driven activities, right? So, if you talk to the team, ask them this question because they all have answers to this because they all have companies that they've worked with. Tell me about someone that started on a light package and is now, a pro account doing 50 plus deals a year because they all have that story, right? That's people have grown up in the launch control system. They found a ton of success. They've been, lifetime clients with us. But more importantly, it's just that was the growth trajectory of their business, and the CS team was with them all along, helping them along the way. From a text marketing perspective, right? Obviously, they had coaches, they had networking, they had their own success strategies and their own abilities. But a key component on the text marketing side came by a close association with the CS team and leveraging that to their advantage. So I very much encourage you to do that. Okay, any questions on section 5 before we move to the last couple wrap-up items? Yeah. So, Rob, I'll get to that question in the Q&A. It's just about the question was how to use the quick reply system to create a more robust or more team specific activate flow and nurture flow. So yes, I'll touch on that, but let's get to the Q&A section to do that. Yeah, so as far as what each of the approaches are, we can touch on that briefly in the Q&A section, but we're also going to send follow-up to this to anybody that attended. You'll have a recording of the session. That was I think Deal Flow Strategy 2. So if you just fast forward to Deal Flow Strategy 2, you'll see it all laid out right there and that part of the discussion. Okay, so something that I want you guys to be aware of is the importance of setting up for the new year now. Now, one of the things that we've seen year over year happen is a bunch of deal flow, a real spike in deal flow in December for people who stay active in December. The reason is simple, right? One, less competition. You know this from networking, you know this from just being in REI circles. A lot of people take the last 2, 3 weeks of December to just kind of get their house in order in terms of their business, spend time with family and friends. It's a built-in break oftentimes for REI companies. So the amount of messaging going out always ebbs down in December just because people are taking a less aggressive approach or a less forward approach with their marketing. But the other element to that, and this is the reason why deal flow spikes for everybody that stays on in December, is that, and you know this just because you do the same thing. People frame what big decisions they're going to make or settle on what big decisions they're going to make in 2024 right now. Like this is the thinking period. This is the time when everybody's trying to decide, I'm gonna shake off 2023 and have a great 2024. Here are the actions that I need to take to get that done. Right? Everybody is in life planning mode at this time of year. So if you can engage with homeowners right now when they are in that very strong open consideration phase, you're teeing up deals that they may actualize in January, they may actualize in February, they may not actualize till August, but that person who is going to sell in August is making that decision right now in this 2 week period, right? Like this is their decision time. So for everybody that's still really active on the app, they're starting to see more and more deals come in, and the cost per deal goes down significantly. So you can see on the screen our current average for cost per deal is just $300 because it's a big spike in ROI because it's taking less messages to get to discovery call, and there's been an increase in discovery calls just based off of those two factors that I mentioned: an ebb in competition and a fluctuation upward and people like really making strong considerations. Okay, let me check the chat. I think that we have a couple of questions here. Jason will respond to how do we get in touch with the CS team monthly. He'll reply to that one either in the chat or we'll put it in the follow-up. And then yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so I did mention to you guys that we have a special offer with Deal Machine. You get 30 days of Deal Machine plus a second month free. If you haven't activated that yet, I would definitely suggest that you do that, but don't just activate it, right? Somebody just said, how do you get in touch with the CS team monthly? All right, so what I would suggest is that you use this as an opportunity to set up your whole system, right? Like get some Deal Machine data, work with the CS team on how to segment that data into A/B tests. Have them help you pair it with the right content systems that we talked about today, and then start your engagement process with your team so that you can then go back again, as we discussed, and you can track all the way back, and you can see that in January or even through the end of December, you got, say 25 discovery calls booked. 17 of those came from Deal Machine data, and of those 17, 10 came from the trusted advisor approach. And you've got real details on what's driving success for your organization within the app. So use this as an opportunity to just actualize everything in one go. Okay, and then we're continuing to have some great success. We want to work really well with you guys. We want to actualize all of these things. So again, like I strongly encourage everyone to get in touch with Jason and his team. Jason, anything you wanted to add before we go to the Q&A section?
No, not really. Just for Eddie, Gabe, and pretty much everyone else to get in touch with the CS team and to schedule those monthly calls. you can either reach out to the support team via the in-app chat button, or you can reach out to success@launchcontrol.us. So it's either going to be one-offs, or we're going to share links that you can use to schedule them. But you can really, and those monthly calls, this is what we usually say, but it really depends on which situation your account is, and depending on how many areas for improvement it requires, we will be simply advising you whether we should be having monthly calls, or even we should schedule another call for the next week, depending on how much work needs to get done. But in terms of this mastermind, to kind of put it in a nutshell, it's all about a healthy relationship and good communication, making sure that the actual conversation that you are having, and that doesn't go just for initials and quick replies, but the whole cadence of initial, if they're not responder, follow up, and then quick reply, and then drip automation, and then you manually continuing the conversation. The whole cadence needs to make sense. Right. It can be just one message and then the next message that is completely unrelated. And whereas you're just repeating the same exact approach. Are you interested? Are you interested? No. Again, this is a conversation. Having a conversation with 1,000 people in inbox can be a little bit tricky, because you are bound to lose that human touch where you're not really interacting with somebody, but you're interacting with everybody. But just have that in mind, that still this is very much based, to kind of say it as a prospect satisfaction. The whole situation happened because of that many complaints getting from the people that you're actually texting, which translates to actually spamming people. So we want to make sure that the cadence makes sense and the whole conversation flow is actually driving towards the discovery call. And if not towards the discovery call, then at least towards the nurture path, which will eventually lead to the discovery call.
Absolutely. Okay, so guys, you have plenty of time to drop in some questions. I did have one question to address, which was how to build out a more complex activate flow and nurture flow using quick replies. So the one thing that you want to think about, and this is something that we can't anticipate, is the exit point of conversations, whether it's a text exit or a call exit. But let's just give a simple example of you were able to activate a call, but you didn't get full discovery details, right? The homeowner was essentially vetting you to find out if you were real. I think everybody's gotten this response at some point where someone that they ended up closing a deal with said, I didn't think this was real at first. Right. But you broke through, you built trust, you got to the point that you were able to offer solutions, and it was a great deal for you, good solution for them. So you may have somebody in that early stage discovery call that wants to vet you to find out if you're the real deal, right? And once they have that information, they drop. So how do you pick that conversation up? Right? Like what did you discuss? Do you want to pick it up with details about the house, where you're saying, well, you mentioned that the house had insert A, B. I still had a couple questions regarding what else do you have questions about? So in order to do this, what you really want to do is look at your existing discovery calls. What are those conversations that you have with clients? Where are those drop-off points in conversations, right? And how would you pick them back up? And that question, how would you pick them back up? That's your answer to quick replies, right? You want to be able to pick it back up the same way you would if you were in a live conversation, or if you were going to call them back the next day. How do you pick up? Where's your re-entry point to that conversation? And you want to plug those in to either the activate or nurture side of the flow, right? So if it's anything that was a question that was a left field question, and you're like, oh, I have a great answer for that, save it, and then add it as part of either the activate or nurture flow. If it's something that is just, you're getting an odd number of similar questions regarding your specific market, save the answer and add it to either the activate or the quick reply flow. So what you end up with is no surprises, right? Like no matter, you guys know how repetitive a lot of the conversations are at the beginning, and you know which direction they're going to go once you actually get into an engaged situation, right? So thinking always of two things, right? Like, or three things. One, how do I solve for the homeowner? Two, how do I pivot this to a discovery call as quickly as possible without without being too forceful, right? Like a natural but quick transition to a discovery call. And then really looking at everything that you activate in discovery calls, all of the solutions, all of the rebuttals, all of the ways that you're able to subtly turn a conversation. How can you take those and map them to your quick replies so that the end result is a discovery call, or better yet, a site visit if your boots on the ground, so that you can close that deal. Does that help answer the question? If not, I think that working with Jason and his team, we can address some specific questions on how to add some additional elements to that. Okay. All right, guys. So if we have no more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap it up in just a minute here. So last chance to hit us up.
Michael, I would like to loop back to one question earlier that I did
Yeah,
answer, but I want to run it by you. So
sure, of
somebody in
course.
the chat said, we're planning to use launch control to send text to realtors asking if they have a property to sell. Is it okay to use their first name in our initial SMS considering their information is already publicly available? My answer was no, since they didn't still get the opt-in consent, even though the information is publicly available, which is the same for any other prospect. That's not a realtor. So if you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of safety of messaging, it's super safe. It's a business to business communication. Like they will profit from that relationship. And but you don't want to use a first name, not because of how they will react as an individual, right? So remember what I said when I talked about this scamming thing. The carriers threw a big, huge, wide net, and they wanted to capture anything that seemed like verification of personal information. So we don't want something that is, no matter how publicly available it may be, we don't want something that is just a intended to be a personalized communication to get caught in that scam filter algorithm, right? So you don't want to use it until you're deeper into a conversation with them, and you have that implied opt-in. That implied opt-in drops a lot of the filtering mechanism, and you can you can engage with them as a human being. But in the beginning, like, even if someone, like, let's say that I signed up for like a huge brand like Adidas or something, even their messaging isn't going to say like, "Hey, well, thanks for supporting Adidas, Michael," because they don't want to get caught in the net either, right? So just err on the side of caution until you're in an active conversation with them.
Now,
Uh,
sorry, go ahead.
go ahead and answer the deal machine data question. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we expect deal machine data? So if you're already a launch control user, then definitely as soon as you sign up, you can reach out to us. We will send you the link. You can use our promo code. As soon as you sign up, you can even start day one. So depending on the feature, whether it's driving for dollars or you just want to use the list builder, like I said, you can apply the filters, and day one after signing up, you can already have a list.
Okay, so question, Kyle. Great question. Yes, we do have some content built out for land investors. It's not as comprehensive as what we have for REI. So what you can do, and this is what I would suggest working with Jason and his team on this, is we can get you the initials that are land specific. The CRM retargeting, that's very generalized, and you can use it for your business. And I actually think it would be really effective given how much direct mail is used in land investing. I think being able to retarget those, I'm assuming you're doing some amount of mailer work, would be really beneficial. And then to connect with buyers, uh, I would take a look at the buyer content flows and see if you can make a one word adjustment where it says the message will say something like, I've typically got 2 or 3 properties available per month. You might be able to just, if you're dealing with someone who's like a contractor that is building housing and they're always looking for land that can be developed, and you're able to say, I've usually got 2 or 3 sizable lots available in insert county name. I can put you on, my select list if you want to receive a text anytime I've got something that kind of matches what you're looking to develop. Right. So it might be as simple as a one-word tweak that allows you to use those templates to connect with buyers. But I'm not entirely sure what your buyer structure is outside of like that one blanket example that I gave. But there's a good chance that you'll be able to use the preset land buyer initials, definitely be able to use the CRM retarget, and very likely be able to use the buyer connect. Okay, if there are no more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I really appreciate everyone attending this one. I'm very excited about going into 2024. I think it's going to be a really great year for all of you. And I very strongly encourage you to work with Jason and his team, follow this 5-step engagement flow. And I think you'll get a ton of discovery calls out of it. And I think you'll be able to really expand your businesses in the coming year. So really, really appreciate it. We'll make sure that to answer the last question, all of the get in touch with us links will be included in the follow-up. So keep an eye out for that. We'll send you guys the replay, and you'll be able to connect with Jason and his team as early as the next couple of days. All right. Thanks, everyone. Much appreciated. And Josh, I'll let you take the reins in terms of wrapping it up.
Take care, guys. Thank you for
Okay.
having.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.